gentlemen, if I could ask you to please be seated. If everyone would please take a seat, we will begin our program for this evening. Thank you. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want the sisters to have to get up. They're here, right in the middle. They have the bell thing of ring-a-ling-a-ling, right, sisters? Right. They got them yardsticks with them. Thank you very much. Good evening, fellow Rams. Our honored inductees into the first inaugural Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame, Father George, Father Peter, Dominican Sisters of Hope, and my fellow Rams, welcome. My name is Dan Spencer. I'm the parish administrator at St. Mary's in Gloucester City and a member of the board of Gloucester Catholic High School. And I am very honored and privileged that the chairman of this committee, Bill Doherty, and the committee would ask me to present the first group into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame. This is something that's long overdue. Long overdue. In the history of such an esteemed and legendary Catholic education institution such as Gloucester Catholic, I am proud that we are to this point in our history. We'll be celebrating 100 years in the year 2026. 100 years. And we're going to make sure that legacy continues. We are going to make sure together, collectively, everyone in this room, we're going to make sure that legacy continues beyond 2026 into the next century. And I just briefly want to thank the leadership that has gotten us to where we are today. Because, you know, we've been on a little bit of choppy waters recently. And because of the leadership that Monsignor Hodge and Father George has put into place, our future is bright. Because of our chairman, John Smithson. John, please stand to be recognized. The chairman of the board. And our young and youthful principal who has vision and integrity, Tom Ichabone Jr. Tom, be recognized. And because of our great business manager, Joel Gerbasi, who is not here this evening, but we owe Joel a debt of gratitude for bringing our finances in order. When you see Joel, if you don't know him, you should know him. Because he's an integral part of the leadership structure that we put in place at Gloucester Catholic. And none of this evening, none of us would be here, none of this would be possible without the first inductee into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame. The first person to be inducted posthumously will be the Right Reverend Monsignor Maurice Brick, the pastor of St. Mary's for 37 years of St. Mary's Parish. He laid the cornerstone for Gloucester Catholic High School. And I'm not going to read any bios this evening. They're all in your book. And I don't know much personally about Monsignor Brick because he came to us in 1913, but Mary Ann Saunders does. She was there. She was there with, hey, she's not the dean anymore, I don't care. So, if you want to know anything about Monsignor Brick, one thing that struck me in Monsignor's bio is that he had a pistol and a shotgun. Did anybody in the room know Monsignor Brick? Raise your hand if you knew. If you knew. One guy right over here. He must be drinking. One guy knew Monsignor Brick, but I don't. They tell me, and if you've ever been in a rectory at St. Mary's, the pastor's quarter is like the Ritz-Carlton, honest to God. The suite that the pastor has at St. Mary's. That's why I always wanted to be a priest. But they tell me Monsignor Brick would sit in the corner window with the gun, and the bank was right across the street, the Camden Trust. Back then it was Camden Trust. Today it's the PNC Bank, and Monsignor Brick would sit there with the gun while the people took the money from the collection over to the bank. Now, Monsignor Lucid quotes in these bios that Monsignor Brick, when he was in Camden at Sacred Heart, and his father Brick, he actually shot at people. So I don't know. Now, what scares me now is my boss, my new pastor, Father George Slater, asked for a gun and a shotgun. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I don't know what he's going to do with that. But I'll let you read Monsignor Brick's bio on your own. But he is the father of Gloucester Catholic. And without Monsignor Maurice Brick, we wouldn't be here. And Monsignor had vision. He had vision that he bought 113 acres in Belmar, which is now the new St. Mary's Cemetery, which I know none of us want to be at. But what vision? And he wanted to move all the burials from Old St. Mary's Cemetery over to New St. Mary's Cemetery because he wanted to build a hospital. He wanted a Catholic hospital on Market Street in Gloucester City. And as the former mayor, I would have loved that. That would have been a great, oh no, it wouldn't. Catholic, I'm sorry. Catholic, they don't pay taxes, that's right. But Monsignor Brick had that vision. He had that type of vision. And we were still part of the Diocese of Philadelphia at the time Monsignor Brick came to us in 1913. And he purchased what was known on Monmouth Street, that faced out on Monmouth Street, was the Berryman Estates. And he added on to that, which we all know as the annex. The annex, the front part of the annex that faces Monmouth Street was the Berryman Estates. That is the first building of Gloucester Catholic High School that Monsignor Brick bought. And thus the rest is history. We are here today. So that's a little bit about Monsignor Brick, and we are honored to posthumously enter Monsignor Brick into the Gloucester Catholic. He's the first person to go into the Hall of Fame this evening. There is no one here from Monsignor's family that we could find, but there will be a plaque hanging in the halls of Gloucester Catholic honoring Monsignor. So let's give Monsignor Maurice Brick a hand. The second person to go into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame is another pastor from Gloucester Catholic. And you all know him. He does not need any introduction. Right Reverend Monsignor Edward B. Lucid. How many knew Monsignor Lucid? Raise your hand if you knew Monsignor Lucid. Yes. Many of us in this room knew Monsignor Lucid. He was affectionately known as Big Ed because he was a towering and all-assuming power to be reckoned with. You did not want to see Monsignor Lucid mad. But some of us did. Raise your hand if you saw Lucid mad. Yeah, right? A lot of us were altar boys that Kevin Nolan, me, Pat Harker. Where's Pat? I was on Pat's team. Where's he at? Pat Harker, he was my captain, right? If we saw Big Ed, man, if he came storming in that sacristy with that look on his face, boy, you better run. Because cruets would go flying across the room, glass would be breaking, and then he'd tell you, clean it up, now clean that up. So you didn't want to be on that side of Monsignor Lucid. But just as quick, like that, he would turn into a big teddy bear. Monsignor Lucid had a heart as big as he was. Monsignor Lucid would give people, the poor people, the shoes off his feet, the shirt off his back. Monsignor Lucid died at St. Mary's Rectory, his beloved St. Mary's Rectory. When he retired, he didn't want to go to the priest retirement home. He wanted to stay in Gloucester City, his beloved Gloucester City, at St. Mary's Rectory, where St. Mary's Grammar School was, where Gloucester Catholic High School was. That's where Big Ed wanted to be. But he would die poor, without a nickel to his name, because he loved the people of Gloucester City and the city of Camden, and he took care of them. Thus, we have today the Monsignor Edward B. Lucid Needy Children's Christmas Fund. To this day, John Nolan is here. He's the treasurer. And we had guys like Jack Page and John Ward and Mr. Nolan and Mr. Kane and Franny Gorman that started the Monsignor Edward B. Lucid Needy Children's Christmas Fund. And that legacy continues today. Because that's what we were taught, right, John? That's what we were taught. Those of us who knew Monsignor Lucid, that's what he taught us. Not by his words, but by his actions. Monsignor was the pastor at St. Mary's for 22 years. And it's really funny because Monsignor Lucid and Monsignor Brick both went back and forth during their priestly careers from Sacred Heart in Camden to St. Mary's in Gloucester City. The both of them worked together. Sacred Heart and at St. Mary's. Monsignor left us for a little while as he was an Air Force chaplain, rising to the rank of Major Edward B. Lucid, and served his country with honor. And then came back to St. Mary's in Gloucester. There was no one who loved Gloucester Catholic and its faculty and its students more than Monsignor Lucid, especially the sports programs. Especially, he was the supporter and advocate of every sport Gloucester Catholic had. And because of Monsignor Lucid, he had the vision to build what we know as the gym, which is our parish hall at St. Mary's. Serves a twofold purpose. Monsignor Lucid had that vision to build the gym and classrooms and a chapel around the gym. And we have Monsignor Lucid to thank for that. And Monsignor Lucid, he was a consummate and astute politician. He knew his politics. And let me tell you why. And this is because of the love he had of St. Mary's and Gloucester Catholic. Monsignor would make sure that his parishioners were elected to the school board and elected to the mayor and council of Gloucester City. Monsignor Lucid would get up on the altar and he'd say, now, I can't tell you how to vote, but John Ward is running for the school board and he's a parishioner, and Franny Gorman is running for the state assembly and he's a parishioner, and he would get down the list of those parishioners from St. Mary's who he had a hand in making sure they ran for those positions. Because it was that important for him and the parish and our schools that we have representation on those boards. He was a great mind, great consummate politician to make sure he had what he needed for his parishioners. He loved Gloucester Catholic so much. And one guy that he loved like a brother, who served at Gloucester Catholic and was in residence at St. Mary's for many, many years, was his buddy, Father John Sullivan. We all know Sully, right? Well, Monsignor, Sully was his consigliere. That's what Sully was. So Sully would come in from school, and some of us that were older, sir, we used to hang in a rectory once in a while. And Sully would come in and Lucid would shake him down. Wanting to know what happened with this sports team, what happened with that game, what happened at Gloucester Catholic, what's going on, how's the money? Sully was his buddy and was his brother. And just like Monsignor wanted to die in that rectory, ironically, so did Father Sullivan. So did Father Sullivan. And that is the Holy Spirit working. God working in their own way. That Monsignor Lucid would die in the town that he loved the most, in the parish that he loved the most, working for the schools he loved the most. So it's an honor for us to induct the second inductee posthumously into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame. Big round of applause for the Right Reverend Monsignor Edward B. Lucid. The next group, the third inductees into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame as a group, are the Dominican Sisters of Hope. The sisters were the backbone. They were the fabric of Gloucester Catholic High School. And I can't mention Gloucester Catholic without the grammar school also, right? Because we would walk down the ramp. Those of us that went to St. Mary's, we didn't have a choice. At 8th grade, we would just walk down the ramp into 9th grade, right? We didn't have a choice. That's just the way it was. But the sisters, the Dominican Sisters of Hope, they came to us in 1873. Now, we just honored the sisters at St. Mary's in January. The St. Mary's Parish is celebrating 175 years, the oldest parish in the Diocese of Camden. And the sisters are celebrating 150 years in Gloucester City. 150 years in Gloucester City of service. And we have the convent on the corner of Sussex Street and Ridgeway Street, which is now the Dominican Center, where we have the guidance offices and the chapel that the sisters used. For the many years they were there. And it's hard to believe that we don't have any sisters now. We miss them immensely. Sisters, we miss you dearly from the bottom of our hearts. It's not the same. If Father George comes in and asks me one more time where Sister Christine and where Sister Nora are, I'm going to strangle him. But it's sad. We miss you. But thank God we have a table right in the middle, table number 18, that are still with us. And I'll tell you, that convent, how many's ever been in the convent? A lot of us, right? Raise your hand, right? We had to do things, didn't we? We used to get, whether we wanted to or not, we had to do it. But there were 40 sisters in that convent. Is that right, Sister Peggy? 40. And I'll tell you, so they send Sister John Maureen here. She's here. Her name is Peggy Devlin, right here. Stand up, sister, a minute. Now, Peggy Devlin she must have missed the meeting. She got elected the Mother Superior. Right, sister? Am I right? Peggy, am I right? The convent of the 40 girls. Now, how many remember Chief Steve Farrell? Right? He took care of the sisters, didn't he? And let me tell you, I don't know if this is true. This is what Steve told me when I was a young councilman. He said the first rule Peggy put in place was that the sisters now had to wear cross-your-heart bras and no-nonsense pantyhose. I said that. Is that right? No. All right. Well, we appreciate all that our sisters have done for us. Sister DeChantal was the first principal at the school. Sister Charitina, Sister Rose Carmela. From there, we had many, many sisters come through the doors of St. Mary's Convent, Gloucester Catholic High School, and St. Mary's Grammar School. Up until our last sister left Gloucester Catholic. Does anybody know who that was? Gertrude Mary. 95 years old. She worked till she was 95 years old. She worked in the office, right? Towards the end, right, Dad? Did she work with you? She worked with you, no? She worked in the office at the end because she couldn't teach, but stayed working at Gloucester Catholic until they had to take her to St. Mary's nursing home. And I had the distinct pleasure to take Sister Gertrude Mary to her resting place in Newburgh with Patrick Healy in the hearse. What an honor. But it's difficult to go up there because I walked through that cemetery and I seen the names of the sisters that were in Gloucester City and a Gloucester Catholic, and that made a difference in my life. It's because of these Dominican sisters, and not through what they said, but through their actions and what I observed from them, that I gained what I was going to be like as an adult. And that was practice a life of service. I learned all the things that I'm involved with in the leadership that I've taken on through my years. I did because of me observing the fabric of the Dominican sisters in the halls of Gloucester Catholic. They didn't have to say anything. And everyone in this room, everyone is a leader in this room in some capacity, in some vocation. And we all got it from those sisters, from those Dominican sisters. And we're very proud of them. We could never, ever thank you, sisters, for all that you've done. And I don't have the list here, but I already introduced Sister Peggy Devlin. And next to her is Sister Joan Boyle. She was Sister Jane Jan. And Sister Rosemary next to her. And Sister Laurel, who is a Gloucester Catholic graduate and went on to be the prioress, the Mother Superior of the Dominicans. And Sister Ann Jude. Sister Ann Jude is with us. Oh my God, it's so wonderful to see Ann Jude. And we have some of the associates with us too, a few of them, Dominican associates. So it is really an honor and a pleasure for me to call up who's going to accept the Hall of Fame Award on behalf of all the sisters. Sister Laurel, please come forward. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you the president of the Gloucester Catholic Alumni Association, who's going to do the next group of Hall of Fame inductees, Kathy Doherty. Kathy, come on up.
It is my pleasure to introduce the group who is being honored for arts, academics, and educators. Engineering, economics. They might seem like distinct disciplines, but not to Dr. Patrick Harper. They are both highly complex systems, and the challenge is to figure out how they work, Harper said. A 1977 Gloucester Catholic graduate, Harper has fashioned an illustrious career as an educator and has emerged as one of the nation's most respected economists. He is the past president of the University of Delaware and the current president of the Philadelphia Federal Reserve. Not bad for a self-styled Gloucester kid who credits his successes to his teachers, coaches, and classmates at Gloucester Catholic. It was the people, Harper said. It was Sister Irene Marie in math. It was Dave Coughlin. It was Tom Michelone in football. It was Sister Ann Leo, who would read with me when I wanted to take German 4. Harper was a standout football player at Gloucester Catholic, and he played the sport at the University of Pennsylvania, where he pursued the twin academic tracks of engineering and economics. Harper earned a master's in economics and a doctorate in civil and urban engineering from the University of Penn, and he spent much of his career teaching at Penn's Wharton School before becoming the president of the University of Delaware. In 2015, Harper took office as the 11th president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, serving as a member of the Federal Open Market Committee. Parker has published 9 books and more than 100 professional articles. In 1991, he was the youngest faculty member at the Wharton School's history to be awarded an endowed professorship. Say that again, right. Harper is a civil engineer by trade. He knows the New York City subway system, he says, like the back of his hand, as a result of a project he completed in pursuit of his PhD. He was awarded the National Science Foundation Presidential Young Investigator Award in 1986 and is a Charter Fellow of the National Academy of Inventors. He was named a White House Fellow by President George H.W. Bush in 1991 and was a special assistant to FBI Director William Sessions from 1991 to 1992. A former president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Penn, Parker also regards the faith instilled in him at Gloucester Catholic as another source of his success. It was the values instilled in me, Parker said. Dr. Harker and his wife Emily have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. I ask you to please welcome Dr. Patrick Harper, Gloucester Catholic High School. Was a pioneer, a trailblazer, a woman definitely ahead of her time. Those terms all apply to Bert Nolan, or as I called her Mrs. Nolan, I'm having a hard time saying Bert, a legendary coach who helped to revolutionize girls basketball during 2 decades in charge of the Gloucester Catholic's groundbreaking program. Nolan coached the Rams from 1955 through 1975, a transitional period where the sport changed from a deliberate 6-on-6 half-court game to its fast-paced, full-court 5-on-5 modern style. Her teams won big both ways, but it was the manner in which the Rams dominated the sport at the dawn of New Jersey tournament play in the early 70s that cemented Nolan's legacy as one of the greatest coaches in state history. She was a great motivator, says her daughter Diane Nolan, who was a successful basketball coach and played for her mother in the late 60s. Records from that era are incomplete, but Nolan is believed to have won more than 500 games at Gloucester Catholic as basketball, field hockey, and softball coach. Her basketball record is thought to be 249 wins and only 38 losses. Nolan was also an outstanding athlete in her own right. She excelled in field hockey, playing the sport at club level after graduating from Gloucester State College, and earned a position on the U.S. national women's team in 1952. She was the captain of that team and was able to shake Vice President Richard Nixon's hand, daughter Diane tells us. Under Nolan, Gloucester Catholic won 14 South Jersey League championships and earned a reputation for high-scoring play, even in the 6-on-6 era. But when the sport switched to the 5-on-5 play in 1969, the Rams rocketed to another level. In 1973, Gloucester Catholic went 22-0 and won New Jersey's first state tournament in girls basketball. In 1974, the Rams went 21-0 and again won a tournament that time was open to every team in the state. The group classifications weren't done until 1976. By the middle of the 75 season, which was her last, Nolan's teams had won 51 games in a row. Her accomplishments earned the coach recognition from the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, where a display honors her contribution to the sport. Mrs. Nolan was a member of the Gloucester Catholic faculty for 38 years, where she served as girls athletic director, Dean of Discipline, and the head of the Physical Education Department. In addition, she established a CYO basketball program and began the school's field hockey and softball programs. She is a member of the Gloucester City Sports Hall of Fame and Basketball Club of South Jersey Hall of Fame. She was always, always, always positive, said Agnes Nicolay-Bernardo, another successful Division I coach who played for Nolan in the mid-70s. It was the positive of positivity. I invite Agnes to please come up and accept this award on behalf of Mrs. Nolan. As the son of Italian immigrants, his first language was Italian. He didn't attend Catholic schools until the 6th grade when St. Bridget's opened in his Gloucester neighborhood. 2 years later, on the school's principal's advice, he took the Gloucester Catholic Scholarship Entrance Exam. And Dr. Anthony Silvestri went on to become one of Gloucester Catholic's most accomplished graduates. In a long and distinguished career as a research chemist for Mobil, Silvestri was involved in studies on chemical kinetics, synthetic fuel production, environmental issues, fuel and lubricant formulation, and product safety. I don't know what half of those things are. He wrote or co-wrote approximately 30 scientific papers, and he holds 28 U.S. patents. And he said it all started with a toy chemistry set. I'm not even sure how I got it, Silvestri said, but it became passion. Dr. Silvestri graduated from Gloucester Catholic in 1954. He received a BS in chemistry from Villanova in 1958 and a PhD in chemistry from Penn State in 1961. He joined Mobil as a research chemist. He then worked for Mobil at its corporate headquarters in New York and its technical center in Princeton, before being appointed as the company's vice president for research and development in 1989. He retired in 1996. Silvestri was the co-recipient of the New York Catalyst Society for Excellence in Catalysis in 1984 and was named a Penn State Alumni Fellow in 1995. In 2005, Silvestri and two of his colleagues were inducted into the New Jersey Inventors Hall of Fame for developments in synthetic fuels technology. Silvestri used to take the train from Glassboro to Gloucester during his early years in high school, and he said he received a great education at Gloucester Catholic and has especially fond memories of the dedication of the Dominican sisters. They were extremely dedicated, he says. Silvestri and his wife, Kanan, were married for 62 years before her death in October of 1922. The couple had 2 sons, one of whom passed away in May of 22, as well as 3 grandchildren. It is my honor and privilege to please welcome Dr. Anthony Silvestri, Gloucester Catholic class of 1954. Gross' childhood must be described as modest at best, but there are absolutely no regrets in his mind. My family had little money and no car, so my universe was just the neighborhoods of Gloucester City. Jim's simple childhood proved a solid foundation for a successful life. He enjoyed a 56-year teaching career as professor at Cornell University. He is the longest tenured faculty member in the history of Cornell's School of Industrial Labor and Relations. He is also considered one of the nation's leading authorities on labor law. Dr. Gross wrote 8 books on labor relations, including Reshaping of the National Labor Relations Board, a study in economics, politics, and law, in 1981, and that earned him the Philip Taft Library History Book Award. Dr. Gross's family resided in Gloucester, where he was raised by his grandfather, his father, and Aunt Katie, who some of you know as Catherine Sheridan. And they helped provide Jim with the guidance and discipline. He played 3 sports at Gloucester Catholic and will never forget playing the first ever basketball game in what was then the brand new gymnasium on Cumberland Street in 1950. After graduation, Jim went on to earn a bachelor's degree from LaSalle College, a master's degree from Temple University, and a PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Dr. Gross accepted his first job as professor at Holy Cross College from 1960 to 1966 before moving on to Cornell in July of 1966. Dr. Gross was a noted American educator and historian who taught U.S. labor law and history. He was the leading historian of the National Labor Relations Board, and in addition, he worked as a labor relations mediator for the National Hockey League and Major League Baseball. Today, Dr. Gross continues to share his good fortune with his Gloucester Catholic family. He donates to the annual Catherine Sheridan Scholarship Fund in memory of his Aunt Katie, which provides scholarships for 2 incoming Gloucester Catholic students. I never forget my roots, my family, and especially my Aunt Katie and the city of Gloucester, he said. It's an honor to give back every year, especially in my aunt's memory. Unfortunately, Dr. Gross was unable to be here tonight due to a health concern. So if I could invite his cousin Bill Waters to accept the honor on his behalf.
Good evening, everyone. This is a great night for Gloucester Catholic. A couple of things, just so you don't think I'm being a young teenager here. I have my phone because the baseball team is playing in the diamond. I'm sure you already know what the score is, right? So we have one person who's getting honored a couple times tonight, so may have to rearrange the schedule a little bit, so just bear with me. I have a couple announcements I've been asked to make. At your table, there's some information cards. If you take a moment to fill that out, information is crucial for us at the school right now to be able to communicate great events like this. So if you're not receiving information from us, if you take a minute to do that. Also, Dan Spencer mentioned this a little bit earlier tonight, just so you know, we are working to find the proper location in the school, and anyone starting tonight and moving forward with our Hall of Fame inductions, we're going to have a section in the school with your photo, so our student body can see and all visitors can visit our museum and see the people who came before us. The other thing I'd like to say, also another informational thing, all our inductees at the end, when I'm done, which will probably be in a while, if you could meet up here for a group photo, okay? You can remember that. Write it down on that card in case you forget. Also, before I begin, I want to do a big shout out to Phil Anastasia, Matt Costantino, and Brandon Doherty. They are like the local historians for Gloucester Catholic, and they've retrieved much of this information for this event, and I'm just going to read it. So I just want to thank them for what they've done. They've done a terrific job, so I want to thank them. All right, now I'm up. I'm going to do the sports for Gloucester Catholic. We have individuals and also teams. Again, we may have to call Omaha, audible, whenever the baseball team gets in here. Our first inductee, Ray Ford, class in 1933. Who said nice guys can't finish first? Coach Ford sure did. To casual observers of the history of Gloucester Catholic sports, Ray Ford is best known as the coach of perhaps the finest boys basketball team in the history of the school, the 1964 state champs. More on that later. But Ford's impact on the institution, its students, and its legacy in Gloucester City stretched far beyond his time in charge of that legendary squad. As Gloucester Catholic nears its 100th anniversary, Ray Ford was first in many ways. As a schoolboy in the early 1930s, he captured the first trophy in school history when he won the 1-mile race for the Diocese of Trenton called the Hoffman Cup, and it's right over here. The family gave us that award tonight, and we'll be putting it into school. So the first trophy in the history of Gloucester Catholic. He played for the first baseball team to get a win for Gloucester Catholic. He played for the first basketball team to get a win for Gloucester Catholic. He graduated in 1933. He played semi-professional baseball and basketball before devoting even more of his time to coaching the youth and at the high school levels. He loved Gloucester City. He helped establish the first Gloucester City Lily. He helped form the first basketball team at St. Mary's. He coached generations of young athletes in multiple sports and set a standard for sportsmanship. Ford, in the early 1970s, founded an organization known as the Ray Ford Old Timers Club. I'm sure a lot of you have been at those events where people get together in the fall each year and they tell you how good they were. And nobody remembers. He coached basketball at Gloucester Catholic from 1962 to 1964. And you guessed it, his 1964 team was the first boys basketball team to win a state championship. His final team was unforgettable, winning each of its tournament games by more than 20 points. If humility was money, and Carrier Post columnist wrote shortly after the 1964 championship game, Ray Ford can make the Taj Mahal look like a pauper. Asked to define his role, Ford said, a high school's job, or high school coach's job, is to point fingers at the players when they win and at the coach when they lose. Ford was a mentor to some very successful coaches at Gloucester Catholic. Bob McQuillan, Joe Murphy, and Arthur Podger. He was an inspiration. Good, you can clap. Good, good. That's like the Mount Rushmore right there. He was an inspiration to many, and it influenced so many lives during his coaching career. In closing, Coach Ford had another little known first. Not many people are going to know this one. He was the first person who carded me when I was a teenager when he worked at Newhouse's liquor store. And he was the first person to reject me from getting alcohol as a teenager. You didn't know about that, right? True story, right? Carrier Post sports historian Doug Frandes, to memorialize the old coach upon his death in 1984, said this. He was one of the nicest, kindest men to grace this earth. It's true. Nice guys do finish first. Accepting the award for Coach Ford on his behalf is his daughter Claire Ford Persichetti, class of '63, and Alex Persichetti, class of 2017. Come on up here, please. Next up, Lisa Angelotti Gadate, class of 1984. The question is not, does she belong in the First Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame? Rather, does she go in as a player, a coach, or a role model?
All three.
You got it. Good luck to you tonight, buddy. All right. As a player at Gloucester Catholic, Carrier Post Girls Basketball Player of the Century in the modern era, Parade Magazine All-American Senior and as a junior, South Jersey Player of the Year Senior and as a junior, led the Rams on an 82-game winning streak, 3 state championships, 2,035 career points, 105-5 career record during her time there. How the hell did you lose 5 games? All South Jersey senior, junior, second team, sophomore. All parochial senior, junior, and sophomore year. Was the second player in South Jersey history to score over 2,000 points. Al Camino Basketball Hall of Fame, Gloucester County Sports Hall of Fame. Pretty impressive. But that's just Gloucester Catholic. At Villanova, she was the Big East Player of the Year in 1988, 4th all-time in Villanova in scoring, was the 5th player in program history to have her number retired, was inducted into Big 5 Hall of Fame. She remains close friends with Coach Harry Peretta here, and I have to say, there was a state game at our place back in March, and our girls, it was a pretty competitive game. We were losing. And one of our girls hit a couple of threes, got us the lead. So we're getting ready to shoot some foul shots at the end, and we had the lead. And Harry's sitting on the baseline. Now the place is packed, and it's slapped. Well, she gotta get slapped. To tell you the truth, I know Lisa, she doesn't want to listen to anybody when she's coaching. This young fella, Coach Harry, hey Lisa. Lisa turned and looked at him. I don't know what he was saying. She agreed, and whatever the strategy was, they got the rebound, and that's history. That's the relationship that they still have. As a coach, she took over as the head coach of Alma Mater in 1989. And during that time, the winningest coach in South Jersey history when she got a big win this past December. Overall record, I can't even read these numbers, 686 and 210. Dozens upon dozens of conference championships. For years, she ran summer basketball camps where she taught young girls the skills of the game, but also how to have fun. I love the teaching aspect, she said. It's the relationships with the kids and trying to be a good role model for them, pushing them hard, sometimes pushing them too hard, but at the end, you know you love them and you know what you want, what's best for them. As a person, what stands out most about her are the relationships she has with her teammates, her players that she coached, fans, opponents, and referees. She has become not only an ambassador for Gloucester Catholic basketball, but also throughout South Jersey. As much time as she spends coaching, she still manages to be a highly successful nurse, the loving wife of Ken, 4 children that all begin with M, Mary, Megan, Madison, and Michael. She truly is a role model to the young women that she coaches. Upon learning of her induction into the Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame, she said this: "This is special. I feel like my whole life has been at Gloucester Catholic, starting when my sister Annette was a freshman, and I was starting to go to games when I was 9. She played basketball, so it started with being an avid basketball fan and Gloucester Catholic supporter, and I've been there ever since. It's just amazing when I look back and think what basketball has given me, and Gloucester Catholic is at the forefront of all of that. On a personal note, I have known Lisa for many years. First as a boys basketball coach, then later in life as athletic director. From afar, I have to say I have admired her passion, her dedication, her hard work, and her love for Gloucester Catholic. I have been her biggest fan throughout the years. Lisa, you indeed are being inducted as a Hall of Fame player, coach, but more importantly, you're being inducted as a Gloucester Catholic Hall of Fame person. Congratulations to 2023 inductee, Lisa Angelotti today. Our next inductee, Ralph Sequella, class of 1959. One of the greatest compliments a coach will ever receive is being called a coach's coach. He played baseball and basketball for the Rams. He made the Seton Hall basketball team as a walk-on for the Pirates. After 2 seasons coaching St. Joe's freshmen, Sequella was hired as the Rams coach before the 1967-68 season. I will be forever indebted to the late Art DePatrick, Sequella said, of another legend of that era, who resigned the Gloucester County position to take on a similar position with Woodrow Wilson High School. 5 years, half a decade. He got a bang out of those 5 years. 5 seasons that may seem a short span of time in the history of high school program that's nearly a century old. But to Ralph Sequella, those days were Camelot. Brief, shining moment that came to represent both his lasting impact on his alma mater and the golden age of Gloucester Catholic boys basketball. The best years of my life, Ralph once said. In 5 seasons, Sequella's teams went 103 and 30. His teams won 3 South Jersey titles and 2 state crowns. The last 2 captured by the Rams in that particular sport. It was his preparation, said Dennis Flaherty, a star forward on both of those teams. Coach Sequella's meticulous planning, exhaustive scouting, and ability to adjust during games stamped him as one of the greatest Ram coaches in any sport. Sequella's first 2 teams were led by star Dominic Carrera, the all-time leading scorer in the history of boys basketball at Gloucester Catholic. In 1969, the Rams lost the state final in a heartbreaking fashion to St. Mary's of Jersey City. Gloucester Catholic finally broke through in 1970, winning state titles by defeating St. Joe's of West New York behind seniors Bill Allman and Joe King, as well as a group of young sophomores. 2 years later, that core of Dennis Flaherty, Dennis Calzanetti, Frank Kohler, Edgar Chu, and my main man, Petey Carrera, fashioned one of the program's finest seasons, going 25-2 and stunning Bishop Eustace in the South Jersey final. As an impressionable 7th grader that night, that was the game that motivated me to take up the sport of basketball. They went on to capture the 1972 crown by defeating Patterson Catholic. I'll never forget the student body, the school spirit, the way the whole town got behind those teams, Sequella once said. The coach resigned after the season to join Gloucester Catholic graduate Jack Collins, class in 1960 at Gloucester State. Later, he became the head coach there from 1977 to 1983. Highlights of Coach Sequella's career include the Basketball Club of South Jersey Coach of the Year in 1972, 1970 and 1972 state champs in parochial bid. His 103-30 record is the highest winning percentage in program history. He was inducted into the Gloucester County Sports Hall of Fame and also the Basketball Club of South Jersey. Ralph married his high school sweetheart, Regina, who has been his top assistant coach for all these years, and is a proud son of Mark. After leaving Gloucester Catholic, Ralph was a long-time and very well-respected guidance counselor at Washington Township High School. Most people call him Coach Sequella. I was fortunate enough to be able to call him Uncle Ralph. He was hands down the most influential person in my coaching career. I cherish our hours upon hours. And if you know Ralph, I mean hours. Just talking the game of basketball and how to play the game the right way. Wherever I would go in my coaching career, everyone knew Coach Sequella. He is a friend to all in the coaching community. He has served as a tremendous source of knowledge for thousands of young coaches. He is a coach's coach. Congratulations to 2023 inductee, Ralph Sequella. All right, Omaha. Dennis Bark was on the clock. We're going to shift that to later. They just can't 10 run them. I got 9-2. Anybody else got a different score? 9-2. Yeah. Okay. All right. We may have to go to that game to make his presentation. I don't know. All right, we'll put him off to the side. I had some good ones for Dennis too. All right. We're going to move on to the next category, and that is teams. 3 teams each.